Picture this. It's midnight, and you're in the middle of the wilderness. No cell service, no help. Suddenly, a low whistle breaks the silence. A whistle so human, yet so wrong. It circles your camp, coming closer with each passing moment. You're frozen in place, clutching your flashlight. And then you see it. A figure just beyond the light's edge. Tonight, we unravel the 5 most disturbing camping encounters ever recorded. Stories that will make you think twice before stepping into the woods. Ethan and Rachel are introduced as a nature-loving couple looking to reconnect with each other and escape their stressful city lives. They meticulously plan their trip to the Appalachian wilderness, ensuring they pick a secluded spot with minimal human interference. As they hike deeper into the forest, Rachel begins to notice the peculiar stillness. No birds chirping, no rustling leaves. Ethan dismisses her concerns, attributing it to their distance from typical hiking trails. They find the perfect camping spot by a creek and set up camp. The day passes peacefully, but the unnatural quiet lingers as the sun sets. The couple enjoys their first night, sitting by the campfire. Suddenly, a faint whistle cuts through the silence. It's short, 2 distinct notes, but the eerie human-like tone sends a chill down Rachel's spine. Ethan jokes, "Must be the wind," but even he feels unsettled. Over the next hour, the whistling grows louder and appears to move, coming from different directions around their camp. As they climb into their tent, Rachel can't shake the feeling that they're being watched. The following morning, the couple tries to rationalize the previous night's events. They brush it off as a prank or an echo, despite Rachel's insistence that it felt too deliberate. While exploring the nearby area, they find peculiar markings on trees, long, parallel scratches, too symmetrical to be natural. Ethan starts to worry, but keeps quiet to avoid alarming Rachel. That evening, the whistling returns, louder and more erratic. The sound weaves through the trees, sometimes impossibly close, yet nothing is visible. Unable to sleep, Ethan steps outside the tent to investigate. With his flashlight, he scans the woods, but sees nothing. Then, just beyond the beam's reach, a faint shadow moves. The whistling stops, replaced by soft tapping on the tent walls. Rachel begs him to come back inside. The tapping grows louder, almost rhythmic, as if mocking their fear. They hold each other tightly, praying for daylight. At dawn, they hastily pack their belongings. However, as they attempt to leave, the whistling resumes, now frantic and persistent. It seems to follow them, weaving through the trees as they hike back to their car. Exhausted and terrified, they finally reach the safety of their vehicle. Back home, Rachel reviews a recording they took of the whistling, only to notice faint voices harmonizing with the sound. She researches online and finds identical accounts of the whistler, a malevolent entity said to protect certain areas of the Appalachian forest. The couple vows never to return. What would you do if you were surrounded by shadows, figures you can't touch, voices you can't understand, and an overwhelming sense that you're not supposed to be there? 4 friends on a camping trip in Yellowstone found themselves the target of something ancient and unexplainable. A warning ignored, a presence awakened. What followed is a night of terror they'll never forget. 4 friends, Tyler, Anna, Jake, and Mia, arrive at Yellowstone, excited to enjoy a weekend of hiking and camping. Tyler, the jokester, immediately sets the tone by snapping tree branches and mocking the park's warnings about respecting nature. Anna, the most cautious, finds his behavior unsettling. The group sets up camp, laughing as Tyler imitates a park ranger's voice, jokingly warning, "The land remembers." However, an elderly ranger overhearing them simply stares, muttering, "It always does." That night, as they sit around the campfire, they hear soft, deliberate footsteps circling their camp. Tyler claims it's just wildlife, but the steps sound too steady to be an animal. Mia points out the eerie quiet. No crickets, no wind. The footsteps stop abruptly, and a low, guttural whisper comes from the darkness. Despite their unease, the group dismisses it as their imaginations playing tricks. During a late-night bathroom trip, Tyler spots a shadowy figure standing at the tree line. At first, he thinks it's Jake playing a prank, but the figure doesn't move, even when Tyler waves his flashlight. Back at camp, he nervously jokes about it, but Anna notices his usual bravado is gone. She wakes up later that night to see a shadow inside their tent, looming over Tyler. When she screams, it vanishes, leaving the group shaken and paranoid. The next evening, the shadows grow bolder. At least 5 figures appear around the camp, just beyond the light of their fire. Their shapes are human-like, but distorted, with elongated limbs and faint, glowing eyes. The group's flashlights reveal nothing when shown directly, but the shadows reappear as soon as the light passes. The whispers intensify, blending into a cacophony of unintelligible murmurs that seem to mock Tyler's earlier jokes. Tyler, now terrified, tries to apologize aloud, yelling into the darkness that he's sorry for disrespecting the land. The shadows freeze for a moment before moving closer. Jake grabs a burning stick from the fire and swings it around, forcing the shadows to retreat momentarily. The group huddles together, praying for dawn. At sunrise, the shadows disappear. The group packs up in silence, leaving behind their camping gear in their haste. Tyler, usually the life of the party, is visibly shaken, his hands trembling as he drives them back. Anna later researches similar encounters and finds chilling accounts of shadow beings tied to sacred land. Imagine camping near an abandoned mining town. The wind carries faint whispers. Tools clink as if unseen hands are at work, and shadows flicker where no light should cast them. A solo adventurer sought peace in the isolation, but found something waiting for him, a presence still tethered to the ruins. What happened next will leave you questioning the unseen forces of history. Daniel, a solo adventurer, sets out to explore an abandoned mining town known for its eerie beauty. As he arrives, the decaying buildings seem frozen in time, their wooden beams groaning in the wind. He sets up camp near the largest structure, an old saloon. The silence is deafening, broken only by the occasional gust of wind. On his first night, Daniel hears faint metallic clinking, like mining tools striking rock. Convinced it's just the wind playing tricks, he ignores it. The next morning, he finds his belongings slightly rearranged, but no tracks in the surrounding dirt. The second night is worse. Daniel feels a hand brush his shoulder while sitting by the fire. He spins around, but no one is there. Items in his tent fall over inexplicably, and he hears faint whispers, too faint to understand. His flashlight flickers as if something drains its energy. Desperate, Daniel speaks aloud, offering peace. The activity stops momentarily, replaced by the sensation of being watched. Suddenly, his campfire flares up, illuminating the silhouette of a figure in the distance. It stands motionless before disappearing into the darkness. Daniel decides to leave, but finds the path back to his car feels longer, as if the terrain has shifted. He hears footsteps following him, but never sees anyone. When he finally reaches his car, he feels an overwhelming sense of relief, only to hear the whispers again as he starts the engine. After returning home, Daniel researches the town and learns about a group of miners who perished protecting their claim. Locals believe the area is haunted by their restless spirits, warning anyone who disturbs the land. They say the wilderness hides creatures older than civilization. In Yosemite National Park, hikers and campers tell tales of a bizarre, silent being, its tall, spindly legs moving unnaturally through the trees. 4 campers dismiss the stories as folklore, but their night in the forest proved that legends have roots in reality. What they saw can only be described as something otherworldly. 4 friends, Darren, Lisa, Erica, and Scott, plan an overnight trip to Yosemite, targeting a secluded area known for stunning views and strange legends. They set up camp near a dense grove, joking about the local myth of the night crawler, a strange, faceless creature said to wander the forest at night. Darren, the skeptic, dismisses the stories as campfire tales, while Erica can't shake an unease about the looming ancient trees. The group spends the day hiking and taking photos. Lisa notices that several pictures on her phone appear distorted, with faint white streaks in the background. She chalks it up to bad lighting, but Erica insists on deleting them, feeling a strange sense of dread. As night falls, the forest becomes eerily silent. The usual sounds of crickets and rustling leaves are replaced by an oppressive stillness. Around midnight, Scott steps away from the campfire to relieve himself. Moments later, the group hears him call out, his voice trembling. They rush to find him frozen in place, staring at the tree line. A pale, humanoid figure with impossibly long legs and no discernible face stands just beyond the trees. It moves slowly, its legs bending unnaturally as it glides between the trunks. Before anyone can react, the creature disappears into the darkness. The group returns to the camp in a panic, locking themselves in their tent. They hear faint rustling, then a slow, deliberate dragging sound circling their campsite. Darren tries to rationalize the sounds, but his voice betrays his fear. Suddenly, the tent fabric stretches inward, as if something is pressing against it. The group holds their breath, too terrified to move, until the pressure vanishes. At dawn, they decide to leave. As they pack up, Erica notices large, perfectly round impressions in the dirt around their campsite. Lisa feels a growing sense that they are being watched. As they hike back to the trailhead, the dragging sound returns, growing louder and closer, but they never see the source. The group finally reaches their car, overwhelmed with relief. Days later, Lisa discovers faint, distorted figures in the background of their photos, eerily resembling the creature they saw. Darren, still in denial, refuses to talk about the incident. Erica, however, believes they encountered the mythical nightcrawler, a being not meant to be disturbed. What would you do if you found yourself trapped in a place that seems to bend reality? A canyon so narrow and deep that sunlight barely reaches its floor. 3 experienced hikers ignored the warnings about the chute of death, a place shrouded in mystery and fear. What they found wasn't just a natural formation. It was something alive, something hungry. This is the chilling tale of their descent into darkness and the horror that awaited them. Greg, Matt, and Sarah are avid adventurers who pride themselves on conquering remote wilderness challenges. On a weekend trip to an unexplored area of the Rockies, they hear locals talking about the Chute of Death, a narrow slot canyon with a notorious reputation. The canyon is said to have claimed the lives of many climbers, their screams supposedly heard echoing for miles. Intrigued and dismissive of the warnings, the trio decides to make it their next challenge. The hike begins as exhilarating. The rugged landscape offers stunning vistas, and they joke about making the chute their trophy expedition. When they reach the entrance to the canyon, an unmarked trail leads them downward into the narrow opening. The air feels cooler, heavier, but they chalk it up to the shade. The chute's towering walls seem to close in, with the sunlight above growing thinner as they proceed. The first hour in the canyon is uneventful, but unsettling. The walls are unnaturally smooth, as if carved by something other than water. As they descend further, Greg notices strange symbols etched faintly into the stone, interlocking circles and jagged lines. He brushes it off as graffiti left by other climbers, but Sarah feels a creeping unease. The narrow path soon forces them to walk single file. Sarah, at the back, hears faint whispers that seem to come from the walls themselves. She stops to listen, but the whispers fade into the sound of the wind. She doesn't mention it, not wanting to seem paranoid. Matt, leading the way, suddenly slips and scrapes his leg on a jagged rock. The injury should bleed, but instead, the wound looks darkened and oddly charred. Sarah, inspecting it, says, "This isn't right." Greg tries to stay positive, but even he can't shake the growing feeling that the canyon is watching them. As the group moves deeper into the chute, they begin to notice that their echoes don't behave normally. Shouts and laughter reverberate back, distorted and overlapping, almost as if mimicked by unseen voices. Matt suggests turning back, but Greg insists they're close to finding something incredible, a hidden chamber, or maybe even artifacts. The walls of the canyon begin to tighten further, and a chilling wind picks up. Greg suddenly freezes, pointing ahead. In the faint light, a shadow moves across the walls, too large and too fluid to be any of them. The shadow appears to melt into the stone, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. That night, they camp in a small clearing they find within the canyon. Despite their exhaustion, sleep is elusive. Sarah wakes to a loud cracking sound, like rocks shifting overhead. The group watches in terror as tiny stones begin to fall around them, and the canyon walls seem to groan. The next morning, they press on, hoping the canyon will open up soon. Instead, they find themselves in a wide chamber, littered with remnants of climbing gear. Old ropes, rusted carabiners, and weathered backpacks. Sarah picks up a notebook from one of the bags, its pages filled with frantic scrawls. "Can't escape. The walls are alive. Don't follow the voices." As they explore the chamber, the air grows heavy with a foul smell, like rotting meat. Suddenly, the shadows in the room begin to coalesce into a towering figure. Its form is indistinct, shifting constantly like smoke. A low, guttural sound fills the chamber, almost like a growl, and the group feels an oppressive force pushing them backward. Panic sets in as the group scrambles to escape. The canyon, once narrow and winding, now feels like an endless labyrinth, the walls twisting unnaturally. The whispers return, louder now, forming words. "Why are you here?" "Leave." Matt collapses, clutching his leg. He screams that something is pulling at him, though nothing is visible. Greg and Sarah drag him forward, but the sensation follows, as if unseen hands are gripping him. The shadowy figure reappears, moving with impossible speed, its form melting and reforming as it chases them. Greg throws his flashlight at it in desperation, and for a moment, the light seems to slow it down. The group realizes they need to keep moving or risk being consumed. The trio stumbles out of the narrowest part of the canyon, finally seeing daylight ahead. The shadow stops at the threshold of the chute, as if unable to follow them into the open. Matt, visibly shaken, insists they keep moving, refusing to look back. When they finally reach their car, they collapse into silence, too overwhelmed to process what happened. As they drive away, Sarah looks out the window and swears she sees the shadow lingering at the canyon's entrance, watching them leave. Please subscribe for more, or else I will feel bad.